Hello everyone, I'm Jacob Kauf and I'm the nerd on the stream, and today we're going to be taking a look at disk and partition management on the Linux command line. Alright everybody, so in today's installment of Bash Basics, I wanted to cover a topic that's one of those things I feel like most people have a grasp on how to do with a GUI, but not as many people are comfortable doing on the command line, and that is disk and partition management in Linux. Now I'm going to be perfectly upfront, this is normally something I'm more comfortable doing in a GUI myself with the tool like gparted. When it comes to handling partitions, you're dealing with data, you don't want data loss, and you don't want any mistakes to occur. So even though most of the things that we do on the command line, if you run a wrong command, the worst that's going to happen is it just won't work. With partition management, we do want to be a little bit more careful because we don't want to lose data. However, with that in mind, sometimes you're in an environment where you need to handle partitions using the command line. Maybe you're installing a distribution like Arch that requires you to do this manually and doesn't give you a GUI for it. Or maybe you're rescuing a system that isn't booting into a GUI and you can't boot up a live disk to do this from a GUI for whatever reason, so you're going to need to know how to do this from a terminal. Or at least being able to do this can be helpful. So today I'm going to go through some basic partitioning operations. Just like the rest of the videos in this series, we won't go super in-depth, but I do just want to introduce you to some of the concepts surrounding this topic. So we're going to be taking a look at two of the major tools for doing this. One of them is gdisk, which is an equivalent of fdisk, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in a moment. And the other one is parted, which is the backend for programs like gparted. So yeah, that's what we're doing today. Let's go ahead and cut to the desktop. Alright guys, and here we are. I'm going to be using a virtual machine with Fedora 31 on it today. And in this machine, I've got two drives right now. I've got an OS drive, and I've also got a 100 gigabyte extra drive, which we're going to be partitioning. Now, the first thing we'll want to know how to do is just listing the partitions and drives that are on this system. So I'm going to open a terminal up, and in this terminal, we're going to run sudo fdisk -L. So fdisk is a tool that you can use to both read partitions and modify and edit partitions on your disks. And fdisk-L for list is going to list out the drives in our system and the partitions on each one. There are some other tools that can also display the drives and partitions on the system, but some of those tools only display mounted drives, whereas fdisk is more to work with the drives themselves. So that's what we're going to use, and I'll go ahead and enter my password, and you can see we get back our output. We've got disk dev SDA, which is an 80 gigabyte drive, and that is our OS drive. We've got one partition on it here, dev SDA1, and that's our root partition. So in fdisk output, we've got disks that are listed, and then we've got these quote-unquote devices underneath the disks, but the devices are actually our partitions. The disks are the physical devices themselves. And usually, if everything's working properly, you can see a handy label for what the make and model of your drive is. I've seen cases where this doesn't work, but usually that only happens if there are hardware issues. Most of the time, the drive model does show up. Now down here, we've got disk dev SDB, and this is our extra drive. It's 100 gigabytes, and we are going to be partitioning this up today, mounting it so that we can use it and that kind of thing. So pretend that dev SDB here is an external hard drive. You needed more space, so you went out and bought an external drive, and we need to partition that now. Now the tool that we're going to use first to partition this is called gdisk, and the command to get into it is going to be sudo gdisk and then the drive that we want to work with. So that's going to be dev SDB. Now, a couple important notes to start out with. After you reboot a system, you are going to want to run sudo fdisk-L again before you start working with drives, and the reason is because these labels can actually change from boot to boot. Now, on most consumer hardware, your drive labels will stay the same unless you are adding and removing drives. So if you've got two drives in your system and you reboot, the labels will probably be assigned in the same order on most computers. However, I've definitely seen motherboards where if you've got 5 or 8 drives inserted into the system physically, the labels can change seemingly randomly on every boot. So we don't actually want to rely on these labels. You do want to check them every time, like I said, the system reboots, because that's when these labels are assigned, is either on boot or when the drive is detected if you're hot plugging a drive. So that's one note. Now another thing, we're going to be using gdisk like I said. Now if we wanted to, we could partition this drive using fdisk, These are two separate programs, but the syntax between them is extremely similar. So what's the difference between fdisk and gdisk? Well, fdisk is the original tool, and it works with drives using the master boot record partitioning table. Now, the master boot record is the older type of partitioning table, and it has some limitations. For one thing, it can only support up to 2 terabyte partitions, and a partition cannot start past the 2 terabyte mark, so in practice, it really only supports up to 2 terabyte disks as well. So if you've got 3 terabyte or 4 terabyte or 10 terabyte drives, which all exist nowadays, fdisk is not going to be able to partition them so that you're utilizing them effectively. Another limitation of the master boot record is that you can only have up to 4 primary partitions or 3 primary partitions and an extended partition. Now, you can kind of work around that limitation with logical partitions and LVM and other things, but the point is that the master boot record is legacy today, and what we want to be using is called GPT. That's the GUID, or Global Unique Identifier partition table. Now, GPT can support volumes up to 18 exabytes in size and up to 128 partitions per disk, which is far more than anybody needs, because normally if you're getting that complicated with your data, you're going to be using something else like LVM or another higher level tool that's managing that for you. So GPT virtually gets rid of all the limitations of MBR. It's also got some features that make it a little bit more resistant to failure with regards to how the partition table is stored and backed up. So the long and short of it is, I like to show modern technology on my channel. fdisk right now is kind of deprecated effectively, and so we're going to be using gdisk to actually work with the disks. fdisk can list GPT disks just fine, but when it comes to actually modifying the partitions, we're going to use gdisk. Now, fdisk does have experimental support for GPT right now, so this could change in the future. Just wanted to note that. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and enter in here. I talked long enough that I need to enter my password again, and now you can see this is what gdisk looks like when we start it up. You can see the header is GPT fdisk, so once again, the syntax that we're going to use is mostly the same as fdisk, and it's going to scan for partition tables first. Now, SDB, this is a brand new clean drive. Now, if you bought a external hard drive for your computer, it's probably going to come from the manufacturer with some sort of partition on it. But if you've got a bare internal drive, it's probably going to be unformatted, so that's more like what we're looking at right here. So it's going to say, okay, there's no master boot record on here, there's no GPT GUID partition table on here. There are also other types of partition tables that I'm not going to get into right now. But you can see we're going to create new GPT entries in memory. Now, something important to note about fdisk and gdisk is that the changes are not written until you write the changes explicitly, which is going to be the last step in this tool. So we're going to hit O, and this is going to create a new partition table. Now, it says create a new protective MBR, but since we're in gdisk, this is going to create a GUID partition table. So we'll enter Y to proceed. So at this point, we know we've just created a new partition table and we can start making our partitions. So the command to create a partition is in for new. We'll run that. As you can see, we can number the partition from 1 to 128, which is the maximum that GPT supports. We're going to accept the default of 1 partition. Now, a reason that I really like to use gdisk and fdisk more than parted, which we'll look at later, is because it recommends automatically the first and last sector of the drive when you're just creating a partition. So if you just have a drive and you want to make a single partition that utilizes the maximum amount of space, it's very easy. You just don't specify any values here, and we're going to end up with a partition that is the maximum size of the drive. Now, as you can see, the first sector on the drive physically is 34, but the default first sector is 2048. This has to do with alignment, and I'm not going to get too into the low-level hardware details of how disks work today. To be honest, I'm not entirely knowledgeable about them myself, but basically hard drives are divisioned up into sectors that they actually physically work in, and so you generally want your partition to be aligned with those sectors for best performance. So that's why the default first sector is 2048. For now, we're going to accept the default first sector and the default last sector, and so once again, this is going to create us one large partition on the entire drive. Next, we're going to be asked for the hex code or GUID that we want to assign to this partition. Now, the hex code is a way to identify what type of partition it is. It's important to note, we're going to call it a Linux file system, but gdisk is not actually going to create a file system for us. We're still going to have to do that later. The label is only used so that tools like gdisk can read what's going to be inside of that partition. Now, the default hex code in gdisk disk is 8300, and 8300 is going to be the Linux file system, which if you're using ext4 or 3 or 2, those all fall under Linux file system. In fdisk, the default type is 83. So the codes are different. The hex codes in gdisk are based off of the codes in fdisk, but gdisk has many more codes. If we enter in L here to list the codes, just some to note, you can see 8300 is Linux file system here. 8302 if you want to mark a partition as being your home partition at the partition level. Once again, this is not required to actually make a partition your home partition. This is just to apply a label to it to make it easier for you to read using this tool later. Swap is 8200, and if we enter in the enter key a few more times to page through the rest of these, FD00 here, you can see that's Linux RAID. So if you're going to be making a RAID array with MDADM, then you would mark it as FD00. But for now, we are actually going to be using the ext4 file system for this partition, so we're going to accept the default code of 8300, which is the Linux file system. So I'll hit enter. You can see change type of partition to Linux file system, and we're back at the gdisk prompt. So at this point, we've done everything we want to do. Now, before we actually write the changes and commit them to disk here, I do want to open up gparted, which is a very popular graphical partition management tool, and it's certainly one that I would recommend if you need a graphical tool. But in gparted here, we're going to select our dev SDB device, and you can see this device is entirely unallocated. There is nothing on this device, there are no partitions, it's all just free space. So like I said, the changes to disk won't actually be written in gdisk until we explicitly write them. We're going to do that using W for write. We'll hit enter, it's going to ask us to confirm we want to proceed because this is going to overwrite any existing data that may be on the disk. We'll enter Y for yes, and you can see it's going to write the new partition table, which will include all of the changes that we made. So now we can come back over to gdisk, and I'm just going to refresh here. And now that we refresh, we see, since we applied that operation, there is now a single partition on the drive of type Linux file system. Now, even though we marked that as a Linux file system type for the partition, like I said, gdisk does not actually create file systems. We'll need to do that ourselves, so that's why the file system is still unknown on here. So making a file system is fairly easy. For an ext4 file system, which is sort of just the standard vanilla file system to use today, it's reliable, it doesn't require manual defragmenting like NTFS does. There are other fancier file systems that exist out there, but ext4, it's tried and true, and so for an external hard drive or something simple like that, I'd recommend ext4 myself. So we'll run sudo makefs, so mkfs.ext4/dev/sdb1. Now there are several programs we could use to do this. Makefs.ext4 is actually going to run another program called make2fs with a flag specifying the ext4 type. So instead of running this, we could run make2fs type ext4 dev sdb1. But as you can see, this command is longer, which is why we've got the shortcut makefs.ext4. There was also an older tool that was just called makefs, and we could run that with type ext4, but makefs itself is actually deprecated, so you'll want to either use make2fs or makefs.ext4, which is what we'll run right now. So we'll run this, and that's going to create a file system on the first partition of dev SDB. So we'll enter in our password, and you'll see it's creating a file system. You can see make2fs, like I said. And we've got our file system UUID, which we'll talk about in a moment, and we've got our superblock backups. So at this point, we've got a usable working partition that we can use. And if I do another sudo fdisk-l like I did at the start of the video, you can see here listed under dev SDB, we've now got a single partition of type Linux file system, and it's 100 gigabytes, the entire drive. So now that we've created the partition and made a file system, we can mount this partition. Now on Linux, partitions are always mounted to a mount point, and every mount point on the system is contained somewhere on the root partition, which is why it's called the root. Basically, if you're not familiar with mount points, we're going to make a folder, and then we're going to say, when I enter into this folder, I want to be using this partition. That's kind of what a mount point is. So to do that, we're going to run sudo make directory on mount, so /mnt/spare drive. Now, you can make your mount point wherever you want. You can make your mount point within your home directory. You can make the mount point at /mount if you don't want to use the shorthand like I am. When you use a GUI file manager to automatically mount a partition, it's probably going to be something like /media or /run/media. But /mnt, a lot of distributions include by default. And this is just an easy way for us to know when we go in and access this spare drive directory. Since it's underneath /mnt, we know that we're accessing a mounted partition. So we'll run that command to make that directory. We're going to run sudo mount dev sdb1 mount spare drive. We'll hit enter on that. And since both of these commands were run by sudo, right now that drive's mount point and the drive itself is owned by root. So my user account, Jacob here, would not be able to do anything with it. I don't want to have to use sudo every single time I use this drive. So we're going to go ahead and run sudo chown jacob mount spare drive. And I've made separate videos already about making directories and changing permissions. So go and review those if you haven't seen them and you're wondering about these. But at this point, our partition is mounted and owned by us, so we can do an ls-al on mnt spare drive. And you can see that spare drive itself is owned by Jacob. There is a lost and found folder here that's part of the ext4 file system, and that's owned by root, which is perfectly fine. If your file system becomes damaged and the system locates files inside of inodes that are not mapped with actual files in the file system, it's going to throw those files into the lost and found directory so that you can at least take a look at the data. It won't be sorted or anything. The file names just kind of turn into random letters and numbers, but it's better than actually losing the data, so that's what lost and found is for. But we can open up the Files app here, and we can go to Other Locations, Computer, MNT, and here's our spare drive directory that we created. And I know that this is the command line series, but once again, I did a separate video on navigating the file system. Right now, I just want you to see that this partition does exist and I can access it. If we right-click and click Properties here, you can see free space is 99 gigabytes, so we know that we're in our 100 gigabyte partition because my OS drive was only 80 gigabytes. We would not have this much free space if this partition was not mounted. And so we can also create a new folder just to demonstrate that we are able to write here. I'm also just going to really quickly make a text file, once again, just to demonstrate that we can store data on this partition. All right, so we've got this partition. Now, right now, if I were to reboot this computer, this partition would not be mounted, and this folder would be empty because the partition's not mounted. The spare drive directory, even though it's a mount point, if the partition isn't mounted, the system will actually still let me navigate in here, but I would be physically working on my OS drive and not the extra drive. So most of the time, you're gonna want to set your partitions up so they mount automatically when you boot. The way that we do that is by editing a file called fstab or file system tab, which is sort of a list of partitions for our system to mount on boot. Now, like I said earlier, this partition right now is called /dev/sdb1, and we could go into our fs tab and we could add dev sdb1, and it would probably work. However, if the name of this drive changes in the future, if we add another drive, and that drive is detected by our physical computer as dev sdb, and then this drive turns into dev sdc, then we're going to be mounting the wrong partition to this mount point. So if these names are unreliable, how are we supposed to reliably make sure that we mount the same partition to the same mount point every time we boot? Well, that's what UUIDs are for. UUID stands for Universally Unique Identifier. It's a long string that's basically long enough and random enough that even though theoretically there could be two partitions in the universe that have the same UUID, for all practical purposes, you can be sure that if you refer to a UUID, you're referring to the same partition or the same disk every time. Now, there are two UUIDs that we can use in our FS tab. We can use the regular UUID or the part UUID, and we view these by listing out a directory, and that is dev disk by UUID for the regular UUIDs. So I'm going to make my terminal just a little bit bigger here, and you can see here, we kind of have to look at the line from right to left. We can see dev sdb1 is referred to by this symlink, which is the UUID of that file system. Now, I say file system because this UUID under dev disk by UUID, this is referring to the ext4 file system on this partition. It is not referring to the partition itself. So if we were to run makefs.ext4 again on this dev sdb1 partition, Even though it's the same partition, since I've recreated the file system, the UUID is going to change. That's by design, because it's no longer the same file system. The file system that used to exist there no longer exists, so the same ID should not be used. Now, there is a way to refer to the partition itself by UUID, and that is going to be ls-l dev disk by part UUID. So if we run that, you can see we've got UUIDs referring to the partitions themselves. Even if I run makefs.ext4 on dev sdv1 again, it's still the same partition physically on the drive, so this UUID is going to stay the same. Now, there are drawbacks to doing this as well, and we're going to look at that later in the video, but right now we're going to use the part UUID for this one. So I'm going to copy this part UUID. I'm going to run sudo v etc fstab. And by the way, the part UUID, this is a feature of the GPT partition table. There are sort of some workarounds you can use to add a part UUID to a master boot record partition table, but natively this is a GPT thing, which is another advantage to using GPT is you get UUIDs for your partitions. So we're going to open up our fstab here. And once again, gonna make the terminal a little bit bigger so this line is not breaking. So we're going to insert a new line at the bottom of this file. You can see here there was already one line in here, that's our root partition. Your fstab always needs to contain your root partition because that partition is necessary for your system to boot. And you can see that the Fedora installer here automatically used the file system UUID for the root partition, and that's perfectly fine because if you make a new file system on your root partition, it's probably not going to work to boot an OS anyway. But for our extra drive here, we're going to add part UUID equals, and we're going to paste in the part UUID of this partition. The next argument in the fstab is going to be the mount point that we want to use. So we're going to do /mnt/spare drive, which is where we want this partition to be mounted. The next argument is the type of file system. We have an ext4 file system on this partition. And we're going to use just the defaults for the file system options. If you wanted to specify mounting a partition read-only or not updating access times on files when they're read, you would specify those things in the file system mounting options, but we're going to just use the defaults once again. And then there are two numbers at the end of the line here. The first one is whether or not we want this file system to be included if somebody runs the dump command. Now, the dump command is outside the scope of this video. Right now, all you need to know is that dump is not installed by default on Fedora Workstation anyway, and you're usually not going to be using it if you're not expecting to. So it doesn't really matter what we put here. I'm going to put 0. You're just as well putting off 1 to enable the dump. Now, the last number we care about a little bit more. This is the file system check order when the system boots. Now, when the system boots up, it's going to automatically do file system checks on all the file systems before it mounts them, unless we specify a 0 here, which means do not check this partition. If you either anticipate that this file system is going to become corrupted for some reason, or you don't care if it's corrupted, if it's not important enough data, and you want the system to continue booting, not get hung up there checking this partition, then you can specify a 0. 1 means check the partition immediately when the system is booting. For important partitions, such as our root partition, we definitely want that to be checked, and it is high priority to check that one, especially before others are mounted on top of it. And then all other partitions that you want to be checked next, we specify a 2. Now, you can't go higher than 2. If you've got 10 partitions, you can't specify the actual order, do this one third, this one fourth. We're only specifying in what round of checks do we want disks to be checked. And since this disk is lower priority than our root file system and it's mounted on our root file system, we're going to specify a 2 so that it's checked after our root file system. So I will go ahead and write this file. And now that that's been updated, this partition is going to be automatically mounted if we reboot. Now, if your fstab is not valid, if the syntax in there is messed up, that will keep the system from booting. So it's a good idea to check that the fstab is working before you reboot. Now, in order to do that, I'm going to unmount this partition manually first. Then we're going to ask the mount command to read our fstab file and mount everything that's in it. So if the partition is remounted successfully, we'll know our fstab is good. So to unmount the partition, I'm going to do sudo umount/mnt/spare drive. Now, when you're using umount, you can either use the mount point or you can use the drive itself. So I could write sudo umount dev sdb1. Either of those are fine. Usually I like to specify the mount point because even though I can correlate those two things very easily, usually the mount point has some indication of what the mount point is for. In this case, we know this is my spare drive. So it's just a little bit less thinking I have to do with regards to which partition, which disk, which number is it. So we will run this, and it's going to ask for our password. And after we run that, you can see back here in our files, app, we were kicked out of the spare drive directory. Now, like I said, the directory is still there, but now it's empty because the partition's not mounted here. So now we can come back to our terminal. We can run sudo mount-a. A stands for all, although you can also think of it as automatic. It's going to go through our fstab file, read every line, and mount everything in there that's not already mounted. So we'll run that. And after running it, we can click back into our spare drive, and hey, you can see our files are back because the partition was mounted successfully. So since mount-a mounted the partition, I know that the fstab is also going to mount the partition on boot. So this is all working great. We now have a single ext4 partition on the drive. However, what if I want to do something a little bit more complicated? We're not going to get too crazy in this video once again, since it is just a basics video, but I want to show you just a little bit deeper than what you might normally be doing. Right now, we can run df for disk free space -h for human, and we can see that we've got dev sdb1 mounted at mount spare drive, and the size of that partition or that file system here is 98 gigabytes. What if I want to resize this partition so that it only takes up half the disk, then add a second partition on the remaining half? In Gparted, it would just be a few clicks. I'm going to show you how to do it here in a terminal. Now, in order to resize a partition in the terminal, we need to understand the sequence of events that's going to happen. The same sequence happens if you're using a GUI, but we need to look at it ourselves because we're actually doing it manually. When we resize a partition, what we're going to be doing is modifying the partition table, which really is just a set of labels telling the system how to read a disk. Now, the file system and the partition table are separate, as I mentioned already. We had to create them separately, and we also have to resize them separately. Now, when you're shrinking a partition, you need to resize the file system first, then resize the partition to cut the free space off of the end. When you're growing a partition, it's the opposite. You need to grow the partition first, then you expand the file system to fill the entire partition. So since we're shrinking a partition, like I said, file system needs to be shrunk first. If we were to resize the partition first, we would be cutting off the end of our file system and we might lose data, because the file system is allowed to store data wherever it wants in a partition or within the file system up to the extent of its size. So in order to shrink the file system, we first need to unmount it. So we'll do sudo umount /mnt/spare drive. Again, it's going to ask us for a password, and you can see we have unmounted that. Now we need to do a file system check before the system will let us resize the file system. If the file system was corrupt right now, if there were any errors in it, then resizing the file system might lead to data loss, which is why a check is required. So to check the file system, we're going to run sudo e2fsck space -f for forcing a check. Now, if we don't specify -f, the file system check utility might just tell us that it's clean because there are no errors logged and it wasn't created that long ago. But we need to actually force a check, so we're doing -f, and we're doing this on dev sdb1. Now, checking a file system is not a destructive action in itself, but when it comes to some of the things we're doing later, I'm going to keep using dev sdb1 because that's easier to type. But remember, because these UUIDs are linking to sdb1, the current name of that partition, you could specify here dev disk by part UUID and then the part UUID. This command does the exact same thing. It is longer, but it does point to the same partition. So when it comes to the more destructive commands later, if you really want to be careful, you can always use your UUIDs for these commands as well. So I'll just write sdb1, and we'll go ahead and force that file system check. You can see everything is clean. The check ran in 5 stages, and if there were any errors, we would have seen more output. So now that we've done that, we can actually resize the file system. We're going to do sudo resize to fs dev sdb1. Now, if you're expanding a file system, you'll want to just stop here, because the default action for resize to fs is to set the file system size to the maximum size of the partition. So if you just made a partition larger and now you need to resize the file system to fill in that extra space, you would just run resize to fs and then the name of the drive. Since we're shrinking it here, we need to specify the size we want manually. So we're going to do that space 50 gigabytes, which is going to be about half the drive. You can see resizing the file system, and the file system is now this many blocks long. The units here are going to get a little murky. I know it says blocks right here. It's saying that the block is for small k, and then we used an uppercase G up here. That is important that all these things are not matching, and we'll talk about it a little bit more when we're in the second half of this video. But for right now, we've resized the file system. If we were to mount this partition right now, even though it's still a 100 gigabyte partition, since the file system is only 50 gigabytes, we would only have 50 gigabytes available. terminal. So we're going to run sudo gdisk/dev/sdb again. Remember, gdisk needs the disk or drive name, not the partition name. So we're going to go inside of gdisk, and what we need to do now is the most dangerous part of resizing a partition. You see, there's no such thing as actually resizing a partition. What we're doing when we modify partitions is we're modifying the partition table, which once again is just labels. So what we need to do inside of gdisk is delete the partition and then make 2 new partitions. And one of them is going to be quote unquote the same partition. It's going to have the same file system within it. Now, even though we're deleting the 100 gigabyte partition, our data is not going anywhere because the data is stored in the file system and the partition table is separate from our file system. So we're not actually overwriting our data. When we say delete, we're just removing it from the list, the table of partitions. So to do this, we're going to hit D, and if you just hit D and press enter normally, it will ask you which number do you want to delete. We only had 1 partition on the disk, so gdisk knew we wanted to delete partition 1. So now that that's been deleted, we've got a clean blank disk. There are no partitions in the partition table right now. The file system is still physically there, and we need to make a new partition to house that file system. So we're going to hit N for new, partition number 1. Now the first sector here needs to match what the first sector used to be. We're going to accept the default again, but if you're resizing a file system that's not at the start of the disk, the first sector has to start at the same place where the old partition started that we just deleted. And the reason is because, once again, our file system is physically on the disk, physically starting at sector 2048. If we were to start this new partition at sector 2049, we have just lost one of the sectors in our file system, which is going to cause errors and data loss. So the first sector needs to match. Now the last sector is what we're going to modify. I made the file system 50 gigabytes, and so I can also just make the partition 50 gigabytes by specifying plus 50G. This means take my first sector and add 50 gigabytes, and that's what I want the last sector to be. So we'll run that. We'll keep the default hex code since it's still the same type of file system. And at this point, we have just resized our partition by removing it and then adding a smaller one in its place. Now we have 50 gigabytes free at the end of the drive to add our second partition. So we'll do that with new. We're going to accept the default number 2 now. First sector is going to start in the middle of the disk now, you can see, so we'll accept that. And then the last sector is still going to be the end of the disk. And we'll keep the default hex code for this one. We're actually going to use the XFS file system for the second partition, but it's still a Linux file system type, so we can accept the default hex code here. Now we're going to hit W to write these changes. You can see, once again, asking us to confirm because the information has not actually been updated yet, but we will proceed to update the partition table. And that table has been updated, so now we can come back here and refresh gpart it, and you can see now we've got 2 partitions. We've got a dev STB1 with an ext4 file system in it, and then dev xdb2 is so far unformatted. We can come back over here to our terminal. We can run sudo makefs.xfs dev STB2, and you can see the output looks a little bit different for XFS than it did for ext4, but we can run sudo make directory mount spare drive 2. And now I'm going to add spare drive 2 to our FS tab as well. So we're going to do an ls space -l on dev disk by part UUID. And here we've got SDB2 now, and we can see our global unique identifier for SDB2. So I'll go ahead and copy that one, and I'll do a sudo v etc fs tab. I'm going to come down to the bottom here, and I'm going to insert a new line with part UUID equals, here's our new one, mount spare drive 2 for the mount point. The file system is now XFS for the new one, and we're still going to use the default options for mounting. We're not going to mark this for dumping, and we are going to check it after the root partition. So I'll go ahead and write that file. And now we can run a sudo mount-a to mount all of the partitions in FS tab. This is not going to work. I already know it's not going to work, and props to you if you caught it. So I'm going to hit sudo mount-a, and you can see we had an error. And the error wasn't on our new second partition. The error was for our first partition, mount spare drive. It can't find the part UUID. Now, like I said earlier, the UUID is tied to the file system. The part UUID is tied to the partition. In gdisk, we just deleted this partition and then made a new one. Since the old partition no longer exists, neither does this UUID. As you can see up here, SDB1 now has a new part UUID. So if you anticipate that you'll have to resize a partition, you're probably going to want to keep the same file system. Otherwise, you wouldn't be calling that a resize if you weren't keeping the same file system. So this is a situation where it would have been better to use the regular UUID. So with that in mind, we're going to ls-l on dev disk by UUID. And this UUID here, SDB1, this one has not changed because we resized and kept the same file system. So even though it's too late now to avoid that mistake, we'll go ahead and just copy the UUID. I'm going to edit my FS tab one more time. For spare drive, I am going to change this to a regular UUID entry, and we will paste in our file system UUID there. So now I can run sudo mount-a, and then I can run lsblk, which is another tool that you can use to see partitions that are on the system and where they're mounted to. So we can see SDB1 is mounted to mount spare drive, and it's got 50 gigabytes. And then SDB2 is mounted at spare drive 2, also 50 gigabytes. We can see the same information with disk free space -h. Disk free, since it's about how much free space you have, it also gives you more information like the percentages of use and that kind of thing. So we have just successfully done a lot of stuff here. If I refresh, here's our final format here. Now I'm going to show you how to do the exact same thing with Parted. Now Parted is a GNU tool, and personally I use gdisk and fdisk most of the time when I am actually dealing with partitions on my own systems on the terminal. Like I said, most of the time I personally still use a GUI for this stuff since it's touchy and I don't want to lose data. But if I am working with a server, or if I'm working with somebody else over the phone and I need to walk them through doing something with commands, I would use gdisk. However, Parted is a powerful tool and it can do all the same stuff. So just to make sure that we're all well-rounded here, I'm going to show you how to do the exact same thing in Parted. So first I'm going to unmount the partitions that we have already created. Because we're about to destroy them, I want to unmount them first. So we're going to do sudo umount /dev/sdb, and then I'm going to put an opening bracket 1, 2, closing bracket. So this is going to unmount SDB1 and SDB2. I'm using this syntax instead of just doing SDB star because there is a file at /dev/sdb. If I did SDB star, then the disk itself, SDB, would be included in that wildcard, and I would get an error. It wouldn't actually hurt anything, but I would see an error message, so this is more technically correct, and we won't see an error message. And now, if we do an lsblk, we can see these two partitions are still here, but they're no longer mounted. So now we're going to run sudo parted /dev/sdb, and we're going to start by creating a single partition again, just like we did in gdisk. So we'll run parted, and welcome to GNU Parted. Here we are. So Parted still has its own prompt. As you can see, it does hold your hand a little less, but it is powerful. Like I said, we can run make label GPT to create a new GUID partition table. And it's warning us the existing disk label will be destroyed and all data on this disk will be lost. Do you want to continue? We can enter yes. Now, something to note about Parted that's very important to understand is that it writes changes as it goes. So unlike with gdisk and fdisk, where you have to enter in that write command at the end to commit your changes, Parted will just make the changes. So if we come back over here into gparted and we refresh our devices, you can see those partitions are now gone. The partitions themselves, the file systems themselves, I mean, are still there. The partitions are actually gone because that table has been rewritten. So be a little bit more careful when you're using Parted. Now we're going to run print free, and this is going to print out all of the partitions on the system, including free space. If we just run print, it's not going to include free space, which tells us that there are no partitions on this disk, but it's not helpful if we want to see how much space we have to make partitions. So we can run print free to see we currently have Parted detects this as a 107 gigabyte drive. I think I've talked in a previous video already about why the different units don't always match up. And like I said, that's going to become important here in a minute, but I'll wait until it all breaks to explain. We're going to run makepart to make a new partition. Now it is going to walk us through this process like gdisk did. It's going to ask if we want to set a name on the partition. So you can actually type in a human readable label here if you want to apply that to the partition, and then your file manager and the GUI will probably detect that and display the name for you. I'm not going to do that right now. File system type. Now it's interesting, instead of using hex codes like gdisk, Parted just asks you what file system you're planning on using. So we could type in ext4 here. Now the default is ext2, and remember gdisk only had a general Linux file system category. Parted in the background is still going to turn around and use 0x83 for the label on the partition, which is the same thing that 8300 and gdisk uses. And it's going to use 0x83 for the label whether you're entering in ext2, ext3, or ext4 here. So it doesn't actually matter, it's still more of just a general label, but Parted, since it's meant to be a little bit more human readable, instead of using the numbers, it does ask you for a file system type, and then it will convert that itself to the number. Now here's the part that I don't like about Parted as much. The start sector does not give you a default. If I hit enter here, it's just going to continue asking, well, where do you want it to start? This can be particularly tricky if you haven't run print free yet with both the start and the end, because you don't know exactly what you're supposed to put in, exactly what number Parted detects as the first and last usable space on this disk. However, there is a saving grace here. We can use percentages. So we're going to start this at 0% of the disk, and we're going to end it at 100% of the disk. So 0 to 100, that is the entire disk. Now, a reason why this is helpful to use instead of just putting in the start and end sectors from our print free output is because of that alignment thing I keep mentioning. Now, Parted will automatically correct your alignment for you if you enter in a unit like GB. If you enter in GIB, then it will not automatically correct your alignment, and you might end up with a partition that performs poorly because it's not aligned to the disk's physical sectors and blocks. But the easiest thing of all, if we just want to use the entire partition, is to just use 100%. So we're going to hit enter here, and you can see Parted accepted that. So now we can run print, and you can see we've got a single partition, and it starts here at 1049 kilobytes and ends at 107 gigabytes. Now, if we run print free again, once again, to show partitions including free space, you can see there's a tiny bit of free space at the beginning of the disk and a tiny bit of free space at the end of the disk. This is because Parted automatically started this thing on a sector so that it's properly aligned and we have good performance. So now we can run quit. Once again, the changes were already being made as we went, so there was no need to write or save there. So right now, our FS tab is not going to be updated yet because that's just a text file that we'll need to update later once we get things in line how we want them. But right now, these two partitions from before no longer exist. We've got the single partition. If we run an lsblk, we can see what's actually going on, which is SDB1, a 100 gigabyte partition on that disk. So we're going to run sudo make to fs-t ext4 just to demonstrate the longhand that I mentioned before, and we'll run that on dev sdb1. We'll put in our password, and you see the data from before. This is the 50 gigabyte file system that we most recently had on the old dev sdb1. That data is still physically there. Now, if you wanted to do a dd to copy from dev 0 to the disk, basically, if we wanted to overwrite the disk with zeros physically, that's possible to do. We could do that. But since we haven't done that yet, the data physically is still right there on the drive, and Make2FS is warning us, hey, there is a file system here on this drive. Do you want to overwrite this? I'm going to say yes, go ahead and overwrite it. So now we can mount dev sdb1 to mount spare drive. Now we can do an lsblk, and we see that SDB1 is mounted at mount spare drive. We can do a df --h to see that spare drive has 93 gigabytes available. So now we want to resize this partition to half the disk and create a second partition again. I'll just refresh and gpart it up here so we can see, and gpart detects the 1 megabyte at the end that's unallocated. So let's resize this thing. The sequence is going to be the same. First, we need to unmount dev sdb1, and then we also need to run sudo e2fsck-f on dev sdb1, once again to force a file system check before we resize it with sudo resize to fs dev sdb1. We're resizing it to 50 gigabytes again, the exact same thing we did before. I'm a little bit curious what gparted detects this as at this point. You can see since we resized the file system, this is a good visualization. The file system stops at 50 gigabytes, but right now the partition keeps going. We just need to cut that off once again. So we'll come back to our terminal, and we're going to run sudo parted dev sdb. Now here we can run print free, and you can see that we are still on the partition level using the entire drive. Now I said earlier that you can't resize a partition. That was actually gdisk can't resize a partition, but Parted can. So we can run resize part We'll put the number in, which we can see from our print output is 1. And we're going to resize this to 50% of the drive. Once again, because parted lets us use percentages. It's nice and easy, so we'll put that in. Parted is warning us shrinking a partition can cause data loss, and we'll say, yes, we've already shrunk our file system, so we should be good. Now we can do a print free, and you can see that we now have a 53 gigabyte partition and then 53 gigabytes of free space after it. So now we can run make part. We don't need a partition name. File system type is going to be XFS this time, although once again, it's still going to just put 0x83 in the background. Now the start is going to be 50%, which is the same thing that we used. We said resize partition 1 to end at 50%, so we're just going to make the next partition start at the same spot, which is fine. The end will be 100%, and now we can do a print free. And you can see our two partitions, and there is a tiny little bit of free space in between them, once again for that alignment stuff, but we have two 53.7 gigabyte partitions here now on our drive. So we can quit. Now at this point, I want to run a file system check on dev SDB1, and it's a good idea to do this anyway after you resize a partition before you try to mount it. You'll probably figure out if there's a problem either way, but I should have done this last time we shrank a partition. I'm gonna do it now. We're gonna run a file system check, sudo e2 fsck on dev SDB1. And let's see what we get. We're getting a warning. The file system size, according to the file system superblock, is this many blocks. It looks like 13,107,200 blocks. The physical size of the device, which is the partition, is 13,106,944 blocks. So the file system is larger than the partition right now, which is not possible. The file system, if it tried, it wouldn't be able to write past the end of the partition. So either the superblock of the file system or the GUID partition table is likely to be corrupt. Now, in this case, we know it's not corruption. It's because we've been messing with things. Now, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter to abort here. The reason this is happening is because we relied too much on Parted's human readable stuff and we didn't calculate out the actual numbers. And we shrank our file system to 50 gigabytes, which is apparently slightly more than half the disk. So then when we resize the partition to as close to exactly half the disk as we can get, we have now cut off part of our file system. Now, if we don't do anything right now, there will be data loss. If we were to make a file system on this second partition, remember, this XFS is just a label here, but there is no file system created on that partition yet. If we make a file system, we're going to have data loss because our ext4 file system is still kind of hanging out into partition 2's physical space. So we could go and make an XFS file system right now and there would be no error, but we would be overwriting part of our ext4 data. So we need to take care of this first. We need to grow partition 1 a little bit, and it's not by much. It's just less than 300 blocks, it looks like, that we need to shrink this by. And so let's do that. Let's get rid of our second partition. We need to grow the first one a little bit, and then we'll make the second partition over again. So we'll run parted on SDB. Now I can do a print free here, and this is the same thing we were already looking at. However, this is too vague to really tell us what we need to do, because 53.7 gigabytes, I mean, we could make this a 54 gigabyte partition, but that's gonna be a bigger change than we probably actually need, because once again, blocks are pretty small, and we only need about 300 blocks extra. So I'm going to run unit here inside of parted, and it's going to ask me what unit to use. The default unit is compact, which it basically is human readable. It's going to use whatever is appropriate. If there's a tiny bit of space, it'll use kilobytes. If it's in the gigabytes, it's going to use gigabytes. I'm going to specify megabytes here. Now I can specify MIB, and parted will stop trying to automatically align things for us. I do want it to align things though, so I'll use MB. Now if I do print free again, you can see we've got the same information, but this time in megabytes. Now what we're going to do is we're going to increase partition 1's size by 50 megabytes. And if you're not sure, theoretically you could just go trial and error here, do a few megabytes, run the file system check again, see if it's happy. If it's not, add a few more megabytes. But 50 megabytes is not a lot of space, and I do know that it will resolve our issue here. So we can't resize a partition from the beginning of the partition. That wouldn't be very useful because the file system, when you resize that, it's gonna stick to the beginning of a partition anyway, so you'd be losing data if you resized a partition by moving its start sector up. And there are ways to tell the file system to move, and that's what gparted will do. But what's simplest here is to delete our second partition. Once again, we'll make the first one. We can expand it very easily. Just move the end a little bit forward, and then we'll make the second partition over again in the remaining space. So we're going to type rm2 to remove the second partition. Now, if we do a print free, we see we just have our first partition and then free space. We are going to resize part 1 again, and the new in sector, I'm going to put in 53737, so that's 50 megabytes more than the old in sector. Now, if we do a print free, you can see the in sector has updated, the size is slightly larger, and now we just need to make our second partition again. So we'll make part, we will accept the default partition name, we'll put in XFS for the file system type. Now the start here, we can't just use 50% anymore because technically that first partition is slightly more than 50% of our drive. But what we can do, since we entered in that unit command earlier, that unit command applies to the entire parted program. So we can enter in our start size in megabytes now, since that's the unit we're working in. If we hadn't entered that in, we could just type it in with MB at the end. But I'm going to enter for the start size of the new partition. You can see right here the start of our free space. It's the exact same as the end of the partition. So 53737, I'll copy that and paste it. We'll enter that in, and then the end is still 100% at the end of the drive. Now I can do a print free, and you can see what this looks like. And we can quit out of parted. We can do a sudo e2fsck on dev sdb1, and crisis averted, it is clean. Now it didn't actually do a check there. Once again, if I do a -F, it's going to go through all the passes. But we did not lose any data. We did not damage our file system in the process of what we just did. We temporarily rendered the end of the file system unreadable, and then we resolved that problem before it turned it into an actual problem. So now that we know that our first partition and its file system are healthy, we can go ahead and make our file system on the second partition. So sudo makefs.xfs dev sdb2. Now we can do an ls-l on dev disk by UUID. And we're going to put both of these into our FS tab. We'll just use the file system UUIDs now, since we clearly saw earlier the disadvantage of using the part UUID. I'm going to open up gedit here just so that I have a place to copy and paste these two. And by the way, when you do ls-l, it's going to be sorting these links in alphabetical order. Right now it's lining up nicely to where SDA1, SDB1, and SDB2 are in order, but sometimes these are not in order because what it's sorting by is the actual UUID, which is random, so that's going to be nothing in terms of the alphabetical sorting. So keep an eye on what the actual names are that it's pointing to for each of these. But we've got SDB1 here, and SDB2. And so we can open up our etc tab file. I'm going to edit these two lines. So spare drive is going to be this UUID right here. And then spare drive 2, once again, we're using the regular file system UUID now. It's going to be this UUID right here. So we will save that. And now I can run a sudo mount-a disk-free-h and lsblk. So what do we got here? We've got SDB1 mounted at mount spare drive. SDB2 is mounted at spare drive 2. Both of them are more or less 50 gigabytes, even though we know the first one is a few megabytes larger than the second now. You can see in disk-free, ext4 has a slightly larger overhead. We've got 47 gigabytes available on SDB1, whereas we've actually got more space on the slightly smaller partition. 50 gigabytes are available on our XFS partition for SDB2. And that overhead is something you can modify, but that's outside the scope of this video. You can see the files that we created before are gone because we recreated the file systems. It's not because we deleted partitions, it's because we recreated the file systems that the data was overwritten. And we don't have permission right now, but I can do a sudo chown jacob on mnt spare everything. And now we've got permission to make data on both spare drive 1, which we can see is 49.6 gigs of free space according to files, and spare drive 2, which we can see is 53.2 gigs of free space according to files. And we can come back to gparted one more time and refresh, and we can see our two partitions with a tiny bit of free space at the end. So this is going to be the longest Bash Basics video so far, and as we get into more complicated topics, the videos do have to get a little bit longer because there's more to talk about. However, if you watched this video and you understood the concepts that I was talking about, then you now have a very well-rounded understanding of at least the basics of handling drives and partitions from a terminal. This might come in handy someday. I hope you found it useful. If you did, feel free to go to nerdclub.knots.co and become a Nerd Club member for just $3 a month to help me make more videos. Some of these operations, especially the growing and resizing, using. There's something called LVM, Logical Volume Management, that sort of abstracts the partitioning process and makes some of that advanced stuff easier to do and slightly safer. So I am going to be making another video in the near future, not part of the Bash Basics series, but just a video talking about LVM. But for now, that's everything I had to say in this video. So I'm Jacob Kaufman, I'm the Nerd on the Street, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.